Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It started in the kitchen, like most of our fights did. Our house sat in the Hollywood Hills, windows open to a glittering skyline that looked almost fake at night. But inside that clean, modern kitchen with the quartz countertops and white oak cabinets, things were anything but peaceful. Chelsea slammed her glass down on the counter, hard enough to send a splash of Pinot across the marble. I'm not asking for the moon, Aaron. Just one night. One. At La Lune. On our anniversary. I blinked, still holding the empty coffee mug I hadn't had the chance to rinse. La Lune charges $500 just to walk in the door, Chelsea. That's not just one night. That's absurd. She let out a short, scornful laugh and crossed her arms. Right. Because God forbid we do something remotely romantic for once. I took a breath. That's not fair. No. What's not fair, she cut in, her voice rising, is being married to someone who can recite last quarter's investment returns but can't remember the last time we went on a date. I set the mug down slowly. You think I don't appreciate you? I know you don't show it. Her eyes flashed, that same cold confidence she always wore when she was 2 steps ahead in an argument. And no, your weekly Thai takeout doesn't count as effort. I tried to stay calm, even though I felt my face heating up. Chelsea, I bust my tail trying to make sure we can afford takeout. Afford this house. Afford the life you wanted. The life we wanted, she snapped. And congratulations, Aaron. You've nailed the provider role. Too bad you checked out of the husband one. That stung more than I expected. I stared at her, really stared. This woman I used to dance with barefoot in the living room after dinner. The same woman I once drove 3 hours just to surprise with her favorite gelato because she mentioned it in passing. And now? We were standing 10 feet apart, voices raised, hearts even farther away. I haven't checked out, I said, softer this time. You just stopped looking at me long enough to notice I'm still here. She turned her back, grabbed her phone from the charger, and muttered, maybe because there's nothing to see anymore. I didn't say anything. I just walked to the hallway, pulled on my hoodie, and left, half afraid of what I'd say if I stayed a second longer. The air outside was cooler than I expected. I leaned against my car, letting the quiet hit me. From the outside, we looked like everything people wanted. Chelsea and I were the couple others called goals. We had the house, the careers, me in real estate development, her running a boutique PR firm, the matching monogrammed robes. But underneath it all, I felt like I'd become invisible in my own marriage. Still, I wasn't ready to give up. I wasn't done trying. Even if she couldn't see it, I was still fighting for us. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Not because I had to, because I couldn't stop thinking about her words. You've checked out. Maybe she was right in ways I didn't want to admit. Maybe I'd been so wrapped up in work and providing that I stopped doing the things that made her feel seen. But what she didn't see, what she never acknowledged, was that everything I did for her. For us. So I made a decision. I booked the rooftop at La Lune. I didn't just make a reservation. I went all in. Called the general manager personally, who I knew through one of my old development contacts. Slid my Amex across the counter for the deposit without flinching, even though the number made my stomach twist. Reserved 3 extra tables for friends and family, just like she always said she dreamed of. I even asked for the same jazz trio she'd once mentioned in passing, the one she loved from that little wine bar in Palm Springs. It wasn't about proving her wrong. It was about proving I could still show up. I got home early that evening, holding the reservation folder like it was a peace offering. Chelsea was curled up on the white sectional, knees tucked under her, eyes locked on her phone. She didn't look up. Hey, I said gently. Got a sec? She shrugged. Sure. I sat across from her and slid the folder onto the glass coffee table. I booked La Lune. She glanced at it, then back at her phone. What? La Lune. I repeated, trying not to sound as nervous as I felt. For our anniversary. Full rooftop package. Jazz trio. I invited a few of your favorites. Your sister. My parents. Even Elle and Jordan. A pause. Then she said, flat as wallpaper. Thanks. Just that. No smile. No spark. She didn't even set the phone down. I waited for a beat. 2. That's it. Her thumbs kept scrolling. What do you want me to say, Aaron? I leaned forward. I don't know. Something. Are you happy about it? She sighed, barely louder than a whisper. Sure. That one word gutted me more than any fight we'd ever had. I sat there, trying to make sense of the silence. The same woman who'd once lit up at the thought of dressing up, going out, and dancing under city lights, now couldn't even look at me. You used to want this, I said quietly. The big dinner. The music. The city skyline. I'm trying here, Chels. She finally looked at me, but not with gratitude. With something closer to fatigue. I know, she said. And maybe that's the problem. You only try after things blow up. That one sank like an anchor. Is that how you see me now? Like I just put out fires I start? She didn't answer. I stood, nodding slowly. All right, I'll see you at La Lune. As I walked to the bedroom, I could still hear the soft clicks of her nails on the screen. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if I'd just spent thousands trying to save something that was already slipping out of my hands. But even as doubt clawed at me, I kept one thought close. Maybe, just maybe, the night could turn things around. The rooftop was perfect. Candlelight flickered in tall glass cylinders lining the edge of the terrace. The skyline sparkled behind us like a living postcard, and a warm breeze carried the soft notes of jazz drifting from the trio I'd handpicked. It looked like a dream, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was the only one awake in it. I stood near our table, adjusting the collar on my navy jacket, watching as Chelsea laughed with her friends, her eyes never once finding mine. She looked stunning in a black silk dress, hair pinned in that loose way she always said made her feel effortlessly elegant. And maybe she was. Effortless, I mean. Like none of this cost her anything. Our friends were spread out at 3 adjoining tables, the wine flowing as fast as the conversations. I heard her sister making fun of some influencer, her father telling one of his classic young exec stories that somehow always ended in a lesson about tennis. Everyone was enjoying themselves. Except me. I sat beside Chelsea, trying to find a way into the rhythm of it all. But she didn't lean into me, didn't brush my arm, or whisper something under her breath like she used to at dinners like this. She was fully immersed in the crowd and completely absent from me. Then came the toast. Chelsea stood up, her glass raised lazily in her hand. To old habits and new expectations, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. People chuckled softly. Glasses clinked. And to my husband, she added, glancing down at me, who finally made it to the table. A few awkward laughs. Then she delivered the line that changed the air completely. Who wants to taste my bitter husband? It was meant as a joke. Maybe. But her tone was icy, measured, deliberate. I forced a tight smile, hoping to defuse the moment. But then Ivy, her friend, the one who always spoke like every sentence was a dare, leaned forward from across the table. I think he's very sweet, she purred, fingers trailing the rim of her glass. He just needs another woman to bring it out. The table stilled. A few people coughed into their napkins. I heard a fork clink awkwardly against a plate. I looked at Ivy and gave her the kind of stare you reserve for someone who's way too comfortable crossing lines. Maybe keep those thoughts to yourself, I said quietly. Chelsea didn't say a word, just sipped her wine like this was entertainment. Like she was watching a scene she'd seen before and couldn't be bothered to change the channel. Ivy leaned back, eyes fixed on me with that teasing glint. Relax, Aaron. I'm just playing. Then find a new game, I muttered, my jaw clenched. I saw her eyebrows lift. Saw her register that I wasn't playing back this time. She stood abruptly, grabbing her clutch from the table. Air, she said to no one in particular, then reached across and grabbed my wrist. Come with me, before you snap and toss me off the roof. I didn't answer, just followed. The wind up there was stronger than I expected. It tugged at my sleeves, rustled the collar of my jacket, and for a second, I let myself pretend it was trying to carry all this tension away. Ivy leaned over the railing beside me, her voice soft but laced with sharpness. You know this isn't normal, right? I stayed quiet. She glanced at me. I mean, the way she treats you, like a background extra in your own life. I turned slightly, not fully facing her. It's not always like this. She gave a half snort. Aaron, you paid a fortune for tonight. You booked her dream restaurant, brought her family, hired a jazz trio. And what did she give you in return? A roast. In front of 30 people. I know, I said quietly. No, I don't think you do, she pushed, her tone rising just a bit. You keep excusing it. Like this is just a bad stretch. Like it's going to magically get better because you throw more money or more effort at it. I finally looked at her. Her eyes weren't mocking now. They were sad. Steady. Honest. She used to be different, I said. When we first got together, she used to be, Ivy interrupted gently. But she's not anymore. And you're standing here on the edge of a rooftop, trying to convince yourself she'll turn back into the woman you married. I felt the words hit somewhere deep. I'm not saying she's evil, Ivy continued. But she doesn't see you anymore. And people who stop seeing the ones who love them, they stop deserving them. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded slowly. That's when she looked at me again, almost nervous now. Aaron, I meant what I said back there. I have a cousin. Her name's Lily. She's not flashy. She's not going to sweep into a room and steal the spotlight. But she's the kindest person I've ever met. And if I ever pictured someone who could actually see you, it'd be her. I exhaled and looked out over the city, letting my hands rest on the cool metal railing. The lights below looked endless, like a million tiny chances I couldn't quite reach. I appreciate it, I said. Really, but I'm not there. She didn't respond. I turned slightly toward her. I still love Chelsea, even after all of this. Ivy closed her eyes for a second, then nodded. I figured you'd say that. She straightened up, adjusting her clutch under one arm. You've always been loyal. That's your thing, isn't it? Probably to a fault, I muttered. She gave me a small, sad smile. Yeah, but it's still rare. And Lily would have never made you beg for affection. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Ivy looked out at the skyline one last time, then said, You deserve to be chosen, Aaron. Not tolerated. Not taken for granted. Chosen. Remember that. Then she turned and walked back toward the glass doors. I stayed out there a little longer, the breeze brushing past me, the music behind the glass now muffled, almost ghostly. And somewhere beneath the ache in my chest, a new feeling was starting to settle. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just quiet clarity. Mark's place hadn't changed in years. Same faded leather couch, same lopsided bookshelf, same smell of old pizza boxes hidden somewhere he'd never admit. Man, you look like someone kicked your dog, Mark said, tossing me a pillow. You sure you don't want to grab a drink instead of moping here? I dropped onto the couch with a tired grunt. I already drank the whole rooftop. He gave a low whistle. Yikes. That bad? I nodded, covering my eyes with the back of my hand. She toasted me, called me bitter, in front of everyone. Mark froze mid-step. Wait, Chelsea said that? At the dinner you threw for her? Yup. And you didn't flip the table? I let out a dry laugh. Nope. Just smiled and swallowed it like I always do. He didn't answer for a while. I heard him shuffle into the kitchen, rummage for something, then the click of a fridge door. A kin hit my chest. I caught it on reflex. Root beer. Thought you quit drinking soda, I said. You also thought your wife appreciated you, he shot back. I cracked it open and took a sip. The cushions groaned as he dropped into the recliner. So, you gonna tell me why you're actually here? I stared at the ceiling, eyes unfocused. I couldn't go home. He waited. I did everything she asked, I said. That dinner? The band? The view? I booked every table, invited everyone she cared about. And she looked through me like I was the waitstaff. Mark didn't interrupt. For years, I spoiled her. I continued. Vacations. Birthdays. Just because gifts. I learned her favorite kind of wine, tracked down her favorite pastry from that tiny shop in Napa. I memorized how she liked her coffee. All of it. I swallowed hard. And somewhere along the way, it stopped matching. Not even a thank you anymore. Just this quiet expectation, like appreciation, is beneath her now. The room went still. I used to surprise her and watch her light up, I whispered. Now it's like she's always waiting for the next thing. And no matter what I give, it's never enough. Mark leaned forward, elbows on knees. You think she's done? I shook my head. I think she stopped seeing me. And I let her. Neither of us said anything after that. The silence in Mark's apartment wasn't hostile like back home. It was heavy, sure, but honest. The kind that lets the truth echo without yelling it. Later, when he turned off the lights and headed to bed, I stayed on the couch, staring at the streetlight bleeding in through the blinds. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself ask the one question I'd been avoiding for years. What if love isn't enough when respect's already gone? The quiet didn't answer. But deep down, I already knew. Mark was still asleep when the knock came. Loud, sharp, desperate. I was sitting on the edge of the couch, tying my shoes, half zoned out, and sipping lukewarm coffee. At first I thought maybe it was a neighbor. Then came the second knock. Longer. Harder. Shaking the door on its hinges. I opened it slowly. Chelsea stood there in her workout leggings, hoodie zipped up halfway, face flushed like she'd sprinted the entire block. Her eyes locked on mine, wide, glassy, trembling just enough to give away the panic she was trying to mask. "You weren't answering your phone," she said, stepping past me without waiting for permission. "I called you like 20 times. I saw," I said calmly. Mark's dog barked once from the bedroom, then fell silent again. She turned to me in the middle of the living room, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "What is this, Aaron? You didn't come home. You just disappeared." "I needed space." She let out a humorless laugh, but it cracked halfway through. "You needed space? After you snapped at my friend, then ditched our anniversary dinner?" I tilted my head. "You mean after you toasted me like a punchline in front of our family?" She flinched. "Ivy made a joke," she muttered. "You made the first one." Chelsea's jaw clenched, but her voice softened. "Look, I messed up, all right. I got caught up in the crowd, and maybe I said the wrong thing, but you're the one who just left me there." I stayed silent. She stepped forward. "Aaron, I didn't mean to hurt you." I nodded slowly, but not in agreement. Just acknowledgement. She reached for my arm, gently. "Come home." The words were softer now, less demanding, more pleading. "Please." I looked down at her hand, then up into her face. And that's when it hit me, how strange it was that I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't cold either, just still. "I'm not ready," I said. Her grip tightened. "Not ready for what?" "To come back." She blinked hard, searching my face for something she could work with. "Aaron, I love you. You know I do." I studied her for a moment. "Then why does it only come out when you're afraid I'm walking away?" She stepped back like I'd slapped her. "I'm not trying to punish you," I added. "I just need to think. And I can't do that with your voice in my ear telling me how I'm supposed to feel." Chelsea's voice wavered. "What does that mean? Are you saying we're over?" I shook my head, reaching for my coat on the back of the chair. "I'm saying I don't know, but I'm going to find out." She moved to block the doorway, panic flickering behind her eyes. "Aaron, wait. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do." I paused at the door, holding the knob. "Maybe," I said gently. "For once, don't do anything. Just sit with it." She stared at me, stunned, frozen there like someone had unplugged her mid-sentence. Then I opened the door and stepped into the morning light, my feet hitting the concrete like I finally knew where I was headed, even if I had no clue where it would end. Behind me, the apartment was silent. But in my chest, for the first time in weeks, maybe months, it felt like I could breathe. "While we're here, please press like and let me know you're with me." It had been exactly 7 days. 7 days since I walked out of Mark's place with no map, no plan, just this heavy fog in my chest I was trying to walk through. But something pulled me back that morning. Not hope, not forgiveness, just the need to see it for myself, to look around our home and feel what was left of it. I didn't call, didn't text. I parked halfway down the block and walked the rest of the way, keys heavy in my hand. Our house looked the same, polished, trimmed hedges, the porch lights still on from the night before, as if nothing had fallen apart inside it. I stepped in quietly. The door creaked just enough for her to hear. "Aaron." Chelsea's voice floated from the living room, startled, breathy. Then her footsteps, fast, anxious. She turned the corner in her slippers and froze when she saw me. I barely had time to react before she rushed forward. Her arms flew around my neck, tight, shaking. I felt her body collapse into mine like she'd been holding up the whole sky alone. Her breath hitched against my chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she whispered over and over. "I didn't know how much I needed you until you were gone." I stood there, letting the weight of her settle into my arms. She was crying now, real, unfiltered tears. And for a moment, I closed my eyes and just held her. I wanted to believe this was what I'd been waiting for. But then, something didn't add up. A scent. Subtle, sharp. Not hers. Cologne. Not mine. I pulled back slightly. She wiped her eyes, still clinging to my arm. "I didn't know if you'd ever come back." I stared at her, scanning her face for anything familiar. Anything real. "Chelsea," I said, my voice low. "Yeah." She sniffled, looking up at me. I nodded toward her sweater. "Who was here?" Her face stilled. "What?" "That smell," I said. "It's not yours. And it's not mine." She pulled back a little, her arms slipping away. "You think I?" "Aaron, I've been a mess since you left." "Who?" I said again. Calm, but firm. "Was here." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes darted to the floor. She turned slightly, brushing at her sleeve like she could scrub the truth off. I waited. Seconds ticked by like thunder. Then finally, in a whisper so soft I almost missed it, she said, "It was one of the partners from the firm. He came by just to talk." I said nothing. She looked up, something unraveling in her eyes. It didn't mean anything. He was there. I was lonely. You were gone. I took a step back. You slept with him? She didn't answer at first. But the silence, her silence, spoke louder than anything she could have said. And then she nodded. Once. I stared at her for what felt like forever. My hands dropped to my sides. The room around me seemed to pull away, stretching farther and farther, as if the house itself didn't want to hold what had just happened inside it. She moved toward me again, pleading. "Aaron, it was a mistake. It meant nothing. I was scared you wouldn't come back, scared I ruined everything, and you did," I said quietly. She froze mid-step, mouth trembling. "I came back to see if we could start again," I continued. "I didn't realize you'd already started something else." "Aaron, please." I stepped past her, walking slowly down the hall. The framed pictures on the wall blurred as I passed them. Our vacations, our wedding, our smiles. All of it felt like a dream I couldn't wake up from fast enough. At the front door, I stopped and turned back one last time. She was standing in the living room doorway, arms crossed tightly over her chest now, like she was trying to hold herself together with sheer willpower. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You broke the last thing we had left, and I don't know if that's something either of us can fix." Then I opened the door and walked out, the scent of unfamiliar cologne still clinging to the air behind me. The court date came faster than I thought it would. No drawn-out fights. No screaming matches. No division of assets with blood in the water. I let her have the house, the car, even the stupid espresso machine I bought her for Christmas. I didn't want any of it. What I wanted was peace. And for once, I wasn't willing to negotiate it. The hearing took less than an hour. We sat on opposite ends of the courtroom, barely looking at each other. She wore a beige blazer, eyes rimmed in mascara and regret. I kept my hands folded in my lap, nodding through questions, giving simple answers. Everything was just quiet. The kind of quiet that says the damage had already been done long ago. When it was over, I didn't wait around. I walked out into the Pasadena sunlight and kept moving. Didn't check my phone. Didn't think about what came next. I just drove. I don't even know how long I'd been on the road when I saw her. Pulled over on the shoulder near an old citrus stand, standing next to a silver hatchback with a completely shredded tire. She was pacing in small, frustrated circles, phone to her ear, clearly not getting the help she needed. I slowed instinctively. It wasn't about playing the hero. I just couldn't drive past someone who looked like she was about to lose it in 90-degree heat. I rolled down my window. "You all right?" She turned, startled. Then her eyes narrowed slightly, sizing me up. "Fair enough. I'm not gonna mug you," I added with a half smile. "Just have a jack and a spare. Thought I'd offer." Her shoulders dropped with visible relief. "God, please. That would actually save my life." I pulled over, parked, and stepped out. As I knelt beside the car, she hovered nearby, nervously twisting her sunglasses in her hands. "I'm Lily, by the way." "Aaron." "Well, Aaron," she said, "you're officially more helpful than the last 3 people I called." "Glad to raise the bar," I said, twisting the lug nuts free. "You always get flats on court days? Or is this just a one-time thing?" She blinked. "How'd you know I was at court?" I chuckled. "I didn't. Just left one myself." Her eyes softened. "Divorce?" I nodded. "Me too," she said. "This morning. For years gone." 8 years here, I replied. She whistled. "Veteran status." I grinned, surprised at how easy the laugh came. "You could say that." By the time I replaced the tire and lowered the jack, the sun had started to dip low in the sky. Lily handed me a bottle of water from her passenger seat, still smiling like someone who'd been crying an hour ago, but didn't want to admit it. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "You really didn't have to stop." I shrugged. Didn't feel right not to. She hesitated, then reached for her phone. "Would it be weird if I asked for your number?" I met her eyes. They were warm, not eager, just open. "Not weird," I said, pulling out my phone. We exchanged numbers, and for the first time in weeks, something loosened in my chest. A flicker, not hope, not yet, but the suggestion of it. She waved as I got into my truck. "Well, if I ever blow a tire again, I know who to call." I laughed. Let's hope it's just coffee next time. Deal. As I pulled back onto the road, the sun broke through the trees just enough to light the dashboard in gold. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like something was ending. I felt like something might just be beginning. The coffee shop was tucked between a plant nursery and a bookstore that smelled like dust and forgotten secrets. It was quiet, mostly empty except for an old man sketching by the window and a barista humming something by Fleetwood Mac under his breath. Lily was already there when I arrived. She stood when she saw me, waving with both hands like we were old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. "I got you something safe," she said, pointing to the table. "Black coffee. No commitment. You can still run away after one sip if I scare you." I chuckled as I Saturday, that's smart. I've had worse blind dates. "Correction," she said, grinning. "This is a gratitude coffee. Different category. No pressure." She sipped her cappuccino while I leaned back, watching her in the soft light pouring through the window. She was wearing jeans and a plain green sweater, hair tied back in a low ponytail, no makeup. And yet, she looked centered, like someone who didn't care what kind of impression she made as long as it was real. "So," she asked, resting her chin on her palm, "how's post-divorce life treating you?" I exhaled, like I've been hollowed out and filled with cement. She didn't flinch, just nodded. "Yeah, that tracks." "And you?" She smiled, eyes focused, like I'd been walking through an airport with no bags. "Strange, but lighter." That made me laugh. "You're weird." "Extremely," she said proudly. I found myself smiling more than I expected during that coffee. She asked about my work, but not in a superficial way. She asked about my favorite books growing up, how I liked my eggs, what my mother was like before she got sick. She asked questions most people didn't even think to ask. And she listened. Actually listened. No interruptions. No sideways glances at her phone. No glimmer of judgment. When we said goodbye, it didn't feel like an end. It felt like a pause. We met again 2 days later. She invited me to walk a botanical garden near Griffith Park. I didn't even know it existed, but she said it had a path lined with eucalyptus trees and benches that smelled like tea. We wandered for an hour, talked about old fears and strange dreams. I told her about a recurring nightmare I used to have as a kid where I'd be stuck under ice, and she told me she still had night terrors about forgetting to pay parking meters. By the time we circled back to the parking lot, she brushed her arm against mine. Not intentional, just a natural rhythm we'd slipped into. Another pause. Another text. The third time, we had dinner. A tiny taco spot in Highland Park where the menu was on a chalkboard and the chairs didn't match. We shared carnitas, then laughed too hard over her inability to pronounce horchata. We didn't talk about exes that night. We didn't talk about hurt. We just laughed. And that became our thing. Easy, steady, honest. With Lily, there were no games. No guesswork. If something was on her mind, she said it. If she was unsure, she admitted it. And somehow, that honesty made space for mine. I found myself telling her things I hadn't said out loud in years. Not secrets, just truths that had nowhere to go before now. She never looked at me like I was broken. She looked at me like I was rebuilding. One afternoon, while we were sitting on a hill overlooking the city, she leaned her head onto my shoulder and whispered, "You're so calm." I smiled. "You make it easy." We didn't rush anything. There were no declarations, no moments of passion framed by fireworks. Just silence that didn't feel heavy anymore. Just peace. And God, I hadn't realized how much I missed that. It came in the middle of the afternoon. I was sitting with Lily at a picnic table in Runyon Canyon, our sneakers still dusty from the trail, her hair pulled into a messy bun and her cheeks pink from the sun. We'd just finished splitting a sandwich and were arguing, half serious, half playful, about whether pigeons counted as city wildlife. My phone buzzed. I picked it up without thinking. A text. No name, but I recognized the number immediately. Chelsea. Attached were 6 photos. Old ones. Us in Maui. A candid of me holding a coconut and pretending to be a pirate. Her laughing in the background, wind tossing her hair. A blurry shot of our feet buried in the sand. Sunset photos. The kind of images that used to live on our fridge before everything cracked. Below them, just one line. "Do you remember when we were happy?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I did. I turned slightly. Lily was sipping iced tea through a straw, her knees drawn up on the bench, humming something off-key. She looked over and caught my gaze. You okay? I nodded, then raised my phone and angled it toward us. Smile, I said. She leaned in without hesitation, and just before I snapped the picture, she pressed a kiss to my cheek. Click. I looked at it. Her eyes closed, my face relaxed, sunlight catching the corner of my smile. No filters. No edits. No pretending. I hit share. Sent it straight to Chelsea. No words. No explanation. Just truth. Read receipt popped up a few seconds later. Then silence. No reply. I locked the screen and set the phone face down on the table. Lily tilted her head. Everything okay? I looked at her, then nodded. Yeah, just closing a door. She didn't ask more. She just smiled and stole the last bite of sandwich when I wasn't looking. And somehow, that moment, quiet, small, unscripted, meant more than any memory someone could text me from 1,000 years ago. Because the past might tug at you, but it doesn't own you. The drive out to Lily's aunt's place felt like something from another life. 2 hours north of LA, the city faded behind us, replaced by open fields, worn fences, and slow roads lined with eucalyptus trees. Lily sat cross-legged in the passenger seat, humming to the playlist she made, reaching over every so often to steal sips from my iced coffee. This place is old school, she warned me with a grin. They still cook with firewood. And don't be surprised if someone offers you a goat cheese sample the second you step out of the car. I laughed. I like goats. I can handle this. The house came into view, white painted wood, a wide porch with a swing, and a line of boots outside the front door. Peaceful, humble, a soft kind of beautiful. But the second the door opened, my chest tightened. Ivy. She stood there holding a basket of bread, wearing an apron that looked like it belonged in a 1950s diner. Her eyes met mine, calm, composed. Not a flicker of surprise. Hey, Aaron, she said. Glad you made it. I froze. Lily blinked between us. You two know each other? Ivy smiled, stepping aside to let us in. He does. I introduced him to you, remember? Lily turned sharply. Wait, what? Ivy looked at her, then at me. I told him about you that night on the balcony, at Chelsea's anniversary dinner. Lily's jaw dropped slightly. You mean when she? Yeah, Ivy said gently. That night, I stood frozen in the doorway, everything sliding into place. You knew? I asked. This whole time. She nodded. I knew she didn't see you anymore, but I knew someone who would. There was no smugness in her voice, just quiet certainty. Sometimes, Ivy said, setting the basket down, you don't sit back and wait for people to figure life out. Sometimes, you nudge them toward where they're supposed to be. I looked at Lily. She didn't say a word. She just reached for my hand and held it tighter than ever. And that was the end of the story. I still think about what Ivy did, stepping in quietly, nudging two lives towards something better without asking for credit or permission. Was that right? Or was it crossing a line? Tell me in the comments if you think she did the right thing, and if someone's ever done something like that for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if this story hit home. I've got more to share, and I'd hate for you to miss what's next.
Over that decade. That could be, a quarter of a pound per year. Might not even notice that.
Yeah.
Like that can get really sneaky.
Yeah.
It's really a little amount. And then all of a sudden you're 40 years old and you're like, wait a second, my body looks completely different than it did when I was 30, but I haven't changed anything. I'm eating the same. I'm exercising the same. And what we see from the literature is that it's not necessarily chronological age that is causing a decrease in metabolism or causing us to feel different. It's that we are losing mass as we age. We are losing muscle mass, lean mass. So if we can maintain the same amount of lean mass that we could when we were at our peak in our 20s and 30s, your metabolism is so much better. You feel better. Your insulin sensitivity is better. So I really do see muscle as this is something that we all need to be prioritizing. It's never too late, but it's also never too early.
Well, I love you saying that because I think we need to talk about both those. We say a lot, It's never too late, but it's never too early in a lot of these cases. When we're talking about, women coming into perimenopause or coming out of pregnancies, these are all those years kind of go together. They really do. They kind of blur.
They do.
How does muscle change our body as we go forward and we start building more muscle? Because I love that you brought up the word tone because it is a very sanitized, pretty, safe, the gyms where women are like, it's got the pretty workout and the leg warmers.
Yes.
But we want to build muscle now. Yeah. We don't want to just be toned.
Right. And it's ironic because the workouts that tone you the most effectively